Welcome to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and Thisday Live begins now. Coming up in the next hour, Nigeria celebrates 60 years of independence. Echoes of restructuring vibrates across Africa's most populous country. And in the United States, President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump test positive for COVID-19, barely a month to the U.S. presidential elections. We'll discuss the implications as it begins a mandatory quarantine process. It was just after midnight in Lagos on a horse racing track, Town Square, Tafawa Balewa Square, when Nigeria's new white and green flag was hoisted officially for the first time, replacing Britain's the Union Jack. Several hours later, in the morning of October 1, 1960, a representative of Queen Elizabeth II handed Nigeria's constitution over to Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the country's new prime minister. Nigeria became a republic 3 years later, with Nnamdi Azikiwe assuming the role of the president. Large oil reserves discovered in 1956 had brought hopes of wealth and fortune to many. But very few will argue that the world's largest black population, with massive wealth to spend as the largest oil producer in Africa, is far from where it ought to be. Despite the overwhelming devastation of the economy by coronavirus in the past 6 months, Nigerians marked this occasion 60 years after independence. However, it is apparent that the focus of this Independence Day commemoration was more of a deep, sober reflection on the people's legitimate aspiration to true nationhood, which has suffered untold reverses in recent times and most probably will continue to be repressed by certain institutions of state and security agencies. President Muhammadu Buhari, on the morning of October 1st, addressed Nigerians on the occasion of the country's 60th anniversary, and most of that address focused on what he termed peaceful coexistence, without which it will be difficult to achieve collective greatness. Going down memory lane, President Buhari recalled the sacrifices made by the country's past leaders towards securing self-determination for Nigeria. He said that Nigeria is today beset by a myriad of challenges around insecurity because of pressure being exerted on the land, which supports a population that has now grown to more than 200 million. Well, joining us today to discuss Nigeria at 60, the highs, lows, and the way forward, is Femi Falana, Nigerian lawyer, human rights activist, and a senior advocate of Nigeria. Welcome to the show, Mr. Falana, SAN. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Well, quickly, the introduction is about Nigeria at 60. What are your thoughts on Nigeria at 60? Have we been able to achieve our potentials? Are we truly the giant of Africa as a country? Where did we go wrong? And where should we go from now? Quo vadis, Nigeria. What are the options available to us?
Well, Nigeria at 60 is a sad story because we have lost all the wonderful opportunities to be the leading black nation on earth. For majority of Nigerians, and for those who were matured enough in 1960, in celebrating Nigeria at 60, they look back on colonial days with nostalgic feelings. And this is a sad reflection on our level of underdevelopment. And for other Nigerians, it was a day of sober reflection. Before the government, it was also an opportunity to talk down on Nigerians, to challenge Nigerians, and for the president, it was an opportunity to justify the excruciating economic hardship inflicted on Nigerians due to the mismanagement of our resources, abundant human and natural resources. But for me, it is a challenge for genuine progressive forces to re-strategize, mobilize our people to take their political destiny in their own hands so that this country can find a rightful place in the Committee of Democratic Nations.
Issues involved. President Buhari on October 1 was preaching unity, togetherness, hope, and he was saying that Nigeria 60 should be an opportunity for self-reflection and also collective reflection. Are you optimistic about the future?
You cannot have unity in the air. And again, even in 1960, the speech of the then Prime Minister, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa, to the effect that, oh, we're having our independence on a platter of gold, there was no bloodshed, and so on and so forth, was not correct. It was a faulty, very faulty historical analysis. And what I mean is that there were Nigerians that paid the supreme sacrifice for our independence. I mean, if you go back to some traditional rulers that challenged the monopoly of coastal trade, King Jaja of Opobo, Overami of Benin and others, who were sent on exile, who were deposed, exiled. Some of them were sent to the Caribbean island, and they never came back to this country. Apart from that, you had about 55 women that were killed by the colonial police in Aba in 1929. Of course, you are also aware of the Iva Valley massacre of 1949, November 1949, where 21 workers were also massacred. And there are other killings in other parts of the country, because even the defeat of the various nationalities in Nigeria by the colonial army, because it has superior weapons, was not a dinner party. People lost their lives, communities were displaced, and so when you are acknowledging or when you are celebrating the independence of such a country, you must acknowledge the role or how we lost people, how a lot of bloodletting. The colonial regime even investigated some of the killings and came up with reports which recommendations that were never implemented. So when you are talking of Nigeria 60, you must consider the sacrifice of those who fought for independence. And I'm not talking of those who negotiated the independence of Nigeria in those constitutional conferences held in Lancaster House in London between 1957 and 1959. And I'm talking of the nationalist politicians who are always credited with having won independence for Nigeria. I don't want to talk about members of the Zikis movement, the Nauros, the Moko Okoyes, and others who were jailed in 1946 or thereabout for demanding for a revolutionary transformation of Nigeria from a land of poverty under colonial rule to a land of prosperity in an independent Nigeria. So you cannot rubbish, such history and begin to praise the colonial regime that looted the treasury of our country, that committed crimes against humanity. when you are celebrating independence, of course, you also have to consider the sacrifices that have been made to couple Nigeria together. You had the Civil War, you had a lot of other wars unleashed on Nigeria by military dictators. So when you are moving forward, your history, we must know our history. In our schools, we must teach our history. And that is not going on. So how will our young people learn that we have gone through a lot of horrendous experience in building a nation? And that is what is going on. We're totally ignorant of our past. Young people are not familiar with the history of our struggle, with the history of our sacrifice. So this is the problem.
Well, Mr. Falana, you were the leader of a group called ASCAB, Alliance for Surviving COVID-19 and Beyond. And you were going to mobilize 80 civil society groups to protest fuel price hike and increase in electricity tariffs on September 28. But it looked like your group just chickened out. Was that as a result of the ruling by the Industrial Court and by Federal High Court?
No, not at all. We were going to have a general strike by the labor unions and mass protest by the Nigerian people. And the actions were to hold simultaneously. But on the eve of the protest, the labor leaders met with government in Abuja up to, in the early hours of the morning, almost like coup plotters. And at the end of the day, we're told that the problem had been resolved, or rather that some discussions were going on. So that really led to a lot of confusion. So we didn't have the success that we recorded. Nigerians came out, many were arrested. Up to now, in Lagos, we have about 31 young people who are still languishing in custody. We hope we'll get them out tomorrow. They were granted bail on Friday. It's a continuous protest. Nigerians protested on the 28th. They protested on the 1st of October. And it's going to be continued. It's going to be continued. As long as the human conditions, to which our people have been subjected, have not been addressed, you are going to have a lot of protests. There's no apology about that.
Well, in his October 1 broadcast, national broadcast, President Buhari addressed this in paragraph 26, in paragraphs 41 to 48. And his point is that, look, given the problem with COVID-19 and the issues, economic issues that Nigeria faces, the increase in petroleum price, pump price of petrol, is inevitable. That was his argument. And he expects Nigerians to make sacrifice. But you insist that the increase in the pump price of petrol is illegal and insensitive. How is it illegal? Given the fact that we're told that market forces...
There is a judgment. There is a judgment of the court. That's the case of Bamidele Aturu and the Minister of Petroleum Resources, where the Federal High Court held in 2012 that deregulation of the dance sector of the petroleum industry was illegal. There was no appeal against that judgment. That remains the law up to today. The government has not in any way challenged that judgment. We have brought it out. The government has conveniently not addressed the purport of that judgment. Secondly, under the Petroleum Act, Section 6, it is the Minister of Petroleum Resources that shall fix and determine the price of petroleum product. It's not a matter for invisible market forces. We are dealing with a country organized under an organized government. We have nothing to do with market forces. That is the law. We have the Section 6 of the Price Control Act that has also imposed a duty on the government to fix the prices of essential goods in our country. So You can't be talking of deregulation or prices being fixed by market forces. And again, the president, with profound respect, got it wrong where he was comparing the prices of petroleum products in Nigeria and Saudi Arabia. Because in Saudi Arabia, the people, the welfare and security of the people, you know, have been addressed by the government. In the minimum wage in that country is $7,585 per annum, which is over 2 million naira. Here, it is 360,000 naira per annum. That is if the money is paid, not less than 11 states have not paid the minimum wage. Here, there is free education in Saudi Arabia. There are free health services in Saudi Arabia. And there are other benefits that the people, the masses of the people in Saudi Arabia, you know, are exposed to on the part of the government. You know, benefits accruing to the country. You know, unlike here, where all the time the people are made to bear the brunt of gross mismanagement of the economy by the ruling class. And in this particular instance, apart from campaigning for welfare for our people, the ASCAP has come out to help the government. ASCAP has come up with a report. And I'm talking of, based on research, report collected from government sources, like the Office of the Auditor General, NEITI, and others. And we have come up with a figure of 94 trillion that can be realized by this government. And just this morning, my friend, Dr. Olisa Agbakoba said, just informed me that he's organizing a conference for later this month, 22nd and 23rd of October, where he wants to, is asking the government, can we look at alternative revenue generation possibilities? And in the case of Olisa has come up with a fantastic finding that the country loses 20 billion naira per day. Again, due to mismanagement of the ports, and that is 7.2 trillion a year. And that from the port, if we reorganize the port, this government can generate not less than 100 trillion naira. So, but the government is not prepared to discuss with those who have alternative economic agenda for the development of the country. It's all about IMF and World Bank and neoliberal ideologues in the government. You can't listen to one side of the argument alone, and that is why we are getting it wrong. In this particular instance, it was because the IMF insisted that you must increase electricity tariff, you must remove what they call fuel subsidy, that we're in this trouble. That because we took a loan of $3.4 billion from the IMF, and that's why we're in this mess. About a year ago, the government has said, no. We're not going to inflict more punishment on our people. But today, here we are. This is why it is difficult to accept the explanations of the government, because we have other alternative programs for the development of the country.
Well, Mr. Falana, the World Bank is providing a loan of $750 million for the electricity sector. And they're asking for service-reflective, service-based, cost-reflective tariff in the electricity sector. The same way you feel passionate about pump price of fuel, will you also consider the increase in electricity tariffs illegal and sensitive? And when you talk about alternative ideas, the government has said, well, for 2 weeks, an ad hoc committee has been set up to discuss electricity tariffs. What's the status of that discussion? We've had almost a whole week already. Is your group part of that conversation? And what are you proposing to government?
What we are proposing is that there should be no increase in electricity tariff unless we have improved services. And that has been the position of the government before now. And in this particular instance, during the campaign, during the 2014-15, 2019 campaign, President Muhammadu Buhari did promise Nigerians that he was going to investigate the alleged $16 billion spent or wasted on generating electricity for the country by the Olusegun Obasanjo administration. Under this regime, in the last 5 years, President Muhammadu Buhari has made available to the discos and gencos about 1.7 trillion naira. Again, this is the figure released by the government. Apart from that, the central bank has set aside $2 billion for solar energy. The federal government is also trying to generate 2,000 megawatts with the sum of $2 billion. And I think a contract is being given to Siemens, this German company. And that is a company that assisted Egypt to construct, to build 14,000 megawatts for $9 billion. Now, when you look at the huge sum of money that the federal government has pumped into that sector, a lot of the money, and loans were taken by the government, and the people have to pay. When the government turns around again to impose higher electricity tariffs on the people without any improvement in the electricity supply, Nigerians have the right to say no. And again, there is a judgment of the court that, as the judgment delivered in 2016 by the Honorable Justice Mohammed Idris, now of the Court of Appeal, to the effect that the 45% increase then was illegal because the law was not complied with, and that is still the position. You can't just wake up. Once you say we have privatized, we have sold our electricity companies to certain private individuals, we've given them money, what you call intervention fund, from public fund to help them. Now you turn around and become the defenders of higher electricity tariffs without improvement in the services. The people of Nigeria have the right to complain. One of the clauses in the agreement entered into between the government and the discourse is that we are going to have electricity meters supplied to consumers. Consumers are being asked to pay for electricity, the meters. So these are the problems. So 1 week is gone. There has been no productive, no serious engagement with the people to determine how to go forward. Government is going to continue to listen to itself. And at the end of the day, there's going to be square one. We're going to be back to square one. So this is the problem.
Well,
We're making our position clear to the government. We've been writing to the government. We want the government to look at other ways of addressing these problems. Because you have to involve the people in the management of their affairs. It's no longer a colonial regime that imposes, or a military dictatorship that imposes its own position on the people. And when the president says, sorry, after an election you have traded off your rights to a government, I don't understand that. Because the Constitution says, Section 14, subsection 2, that the welfare and security of Nigerians shall be the primary purpose of government. Nowhere is it stated that hardship shall be inflicted on the people. It's not in the Constitution.
Well,
that is what we are going through. And they say we must not complain. You must not protest. Because if you do that, it is treasonable. We're not going to accept that. No free people will accept a punishment meted out to them by the government and clap for that government. No. That has never been our history.
Well, Mr. Falana, I would like to draw your attention to paragraph 45 of the president's speech, where he said no other government in Nigeria before now has done as well as his administration has done with the management of scarce resources. And that the government that ran Nigeria between 1999 to 2015 has had the impudence to attempt to criticize his administration. Do you share that view, or you think that the president was overstating the case?
Well, with profound respect to the president, I think there are issues that are not being properly taken into cognizance in paragraph 45 of the speech. I'm not here to defend any of the past regimes, but what is clear, and we pointed it out in one of our statements recently, when the government claimed, this country is losing about 65% of revenue, and therefore we are bound to justify, the government was justifying the hardship, in being inflicted on the people. And we came out to say, no, facts and figures. We are in fact making more money this year than last year. And if you plug the loopholes, we can make much more money, so that you do not have to go out borrowing, you do not have to go punishing the people all the time. So, and nobody has challenged our figures. And Nigerians are not really bothered. Nigerians are not looking at the activities of the past government. They are simply judging this government by its own promises. When in 2014, 2015, the candidate of the APC, General Muhammadu Buhari, promised that I'm going to fix the refineries. I'm going to generate electricity for the country. I was a minister when we built the 4 refineries. Now I'm going to fix them. They're in their comatose stage. We are going to build new refineries. If those refineries have not been fixed, if no new refinery has been built, Nigerians have the right to ask questions. If the government said we are going to, currently we're generating about 5,000 megawatts, we're going to go to 10,000. And we haven't seen any evidence. Nigerians have the right to protest. Yet, the same regime has spent close to 1.7 trillion naira by way of intervention fund in that sector. Billions of dollars are going out, to augment the services in that sector. Nigerians have the right to complain, for goodness sake.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, for joining us on Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, the program will continue. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Thank you very much, Mr. Falana, SAN. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show, here on the Arise News channel. I have with me in the studio Professor BOLA AKINTERINWA, Director General, Bolytag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. I also have with me YEMI ADAMOLEKUN, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and of course, CHIKE C. OGEAH, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State. But quickly, let us have a discussion around the conversation with Femi Falana, SAN. Prof, I would like to start with you. Nigeria at 60. How have you fared? What are your takeaways from the conversation earlier with Femi Falana, SAN?
Femi Falana made a number of, factual statements, and you cannot disagree with hard facts. There's no disputing the fact that in 1929, Nigerian women were killed in Aba.
About women rights.
He referred to 1949 when other Nigerians were also killed by the colonial masters. He referred to these cases to make the point that if the Prime Minister could make a statement according to which we got our independence on a platter of gold, he's giving us the other version that, look, there's no need kicking against our own history. I won't disagree with the fact that he said, look, history doesn't mean anything nowadays. That history of our, struggle, nobody is talking about that. History, civics, they are not there. It's quite right. And when he also raised the issue that why should Nigeria be compared with Saudi Arabia, when we are looking at the price of fuel, he made a good point by saying, look, education is free in Saudi Arabia. Social security, all those things, they are there. We don't have that one here. And when you did even ask him about the legality or illegality of the action, he drew our attention to the fact that, look, if we are a country of a rule of law, for instance, there is a standing court, ruling, judgment, to which the government of Nigeria had not reacted. Meaning now that the court judgment is still there, producing force. So all this, I will not disagree with him. But on my own position, reflecting on Nigeria at 16, I think we have constant factors and we have some variants. Let me give you just one example of the constant factors. It is the use of force to maintain the unity of Nigeria. And that is the problem. And now the future of that one, I ask, for how long will the federal government of Nigeria be able to use force and even manu military to maintain national unity? I think that cannot subsist. What do I mean by force? First of all, it was in 1962, historical facts have shown that the idea of disunity will be likely as far back as 1962. And that in itself, you will see in 1963, the Midwest had to be created. It is a resultant of this agreement to disagree on the structure of Nigeria. In 1966, we talk about the coup. But in 1967, Yakubu Gowon was compelled to come up with a slogan, which is that to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. We have been keeping Nigeria. This task has always been there since 1967 to date. When we had all these problems too, in 1999, for instance, the current constitution we are using, it begins with we, the people of Nigeria. But the issue now is the content of that particular we is not known. That is still part of the manu military. What I'm saying in essence, that constant factor of trying to maintain national unity by force is there. But now when you want to look at the variants, for instance, when you look at what is going on in Nigeria, the values we used to have in 1960, the values are no longer there in 2020. And many examples abound. Let me just cite one, and we keep it there. In 1960, the variant factor was that, look, people were united in seeking national unity. In 2020, that collective struggle to have a united country is no longer there.
Well, Prof. President Buhari addressed that in his October 1 broadcast. And he kept saying repeatedly that we can only move this country forward if we remain together. And we all share a collective responsibility to move Nigeria forward to a better destination. Yes, he talked about self-reflection. He also talked about collective reflection. And he ended his speech on a note of hope for the future. But Chike, let me come to you. Nigeria at 60. Is there a great, need or cause for hope about that future that President Buhari defined in his October 1 national broadcast?
Well, if you ask me, Ruben, I would say that Femi Falana, SAN, my learned senior, has first thing he did was debunk that generally held idea that Nigeria got its independence on a platter, and therefore that is why we have become so complacent as a people. And he has taken the trajectory back, telling us from the about women's riots and all of that. But if you asked me, I would say that even from the beginning, ab initio, the ones who refer to as our founding fathers, Zeke, Awolowo, and Tafawa Balewa, they never intended for Nigeria to be a country, if you ask me, because they all were more insistent on the development of their regions, and that was what they all started doing. That is why you can see in the Western region they had electricity here, even before, they had a television station there even before France. If you go to Ibadan now, there are certain landmarks you see there that even the government of Nigeria cannot do them today. These were things that were done in the 60s by Awolowo. And that was the right way to go. So as far as I'm concerned, we missed that road by the force of coercion when the military came in. Yes, there were the events of the unfortunate civil war, which obviously further compounded the issues in Nigeria and basically turned the Igbos into second-class citizens as they were today in Nigeria. So as far as I'm concerned, I think the trajectory we are on as a country right now is not the right trajectory. I think we need to sit down as a people. We've had enough of this situation where the president, whoever that president is not only Buhari that has made that mistake as far as I'm concerned. Every president before him always insisted that Nigerians' unity is not negotiable and all of that and all of that. You see, even if we have to stay as a country, we must talk about how we intend for this country to be governed, because the way we are going has not been working. And like they say, only a crazy man will continue doing the same thing and expect different results. Look at how developed we are as a people. Look at every facet of human development index in Nigeria. We are lacking behind everywhere. The people, the Asian tigers, Singapore, Malaysia, that we're all at the same level of development in the early 60s. Where are they today? Even South Korea, where are they today? Where are we? We can't even generate electricity for our own use. We don't have good roads, like you said, Then, there was this talk about comparing us to Saudi Arabia, which I found really preposterous, because, do you know what the human development index of that country is? Do you know the kind of perks the citizens enjoy there in terms of social security and benefits? Do you know what the minimum wage is in Saudi Arabia compared to the paltry 30,000 naira our workers receive here? So you see, as far as I'm concerned, until we turn around and really come on a drawing table and decide how we need to govern this country, I think we'll just be going around in circles. And we have the situation of what the president did, where, like I said, it's not, peculiar to President Buhari. President Obasanjo did it before him. President Yar'Adua did it. And then President Goodluck also did it. And, this top-down approach can never work for Nigeria. You can't sit in Abuja and control everything. That is why we are so grossly underdeveloped. Without mincing much words and taking too much time, I think what we need to do is to turn the ship of state around. We clearly are heading in a wrong direction, because I don't even understand what is coming up in 2023, what exactly we are looking forward to and what we are going to do. I know that a lot of things defy all odds in Nigeria, and so many times people have said, oh, this is the end, this will happen, that will happen, and somehow or the other we just keep going. And I think it's that resilience that we have as a nation that people have decided to maybe take for granted. But I think we are getting to the short end, we are getting to the end of the road in all of that. I hate to think if there was a southern president in Nigeria now, and with the kind of situation, the security situation we are seeing in the north, what it will have been like. I mean, what happened under the Jonathan time was nothing like what we are seeing, where a governor of a state, a sitting governor with all the paraphernalia of office, is being attacked repeatedly, the way the governor of Borno is being done. I can imagine if there was a President Jonathan or a President Reuben Abati or a President YEMI, ADAMOLEKUN sitting there, what would they say? They would definitely say that this thing is being sabotaged from the south. And you know how we are in Nigeria. Once you bring ethnicity, once you bring religion in, then it becomes a very vile mix, and then anything goes. So the only reason why I think we are even sitting here and talking, Reuben, is because we have a president from the north. Does he intend to stay there in perpetuity until we get the security situation under control? I don't know. So these are the things I think we should look at. With Nigeria at this juncture, we should start thinking about sitting down and talking to ourselves, not talking at each other, not people in the presidential villa talking down at the rest of us. Nigerians and their representatives, I don't care where we want to start it from, whether it's a conference, whether we have to go and engage our representatives in the National Assembly, whatever we need to do, let us do it. But we need to sit down and start talking. That, I think, that is my opinion about what has happened to us for the 60 years we have been in existence and the way forward. Thank you.
Yeah, YEMI, Nigeria at 60.
Thank you. A couple of quick things. We've talked about the fact that our history is not taught, and in present day, citizens don't know their rights and responsibilities, which makes engaging government extremely difficult. Mr. Falana spoke about things enshrined in law that even our government is disobeying. So then that puts citizens in a very precarious position if lack of information. I think it's very interesting. I doubt if there was an October 1st event that the president would have addressed the nation on this issue of subsidy and electricity price hike. He was minister when we built the refineries. The refineries are not working. And part of the engagement with Labour, which Labour very interestingly agreed to, was that the refineries will suddenly be improved. But it's significant that Mr. President, who leading up to 2015 said there was no subsidy, makes a U-turn using Saudi Arabia as a parallel when the facts are completely wrong, as CHIKE had said. Anyway. And then lastly, Prof spoke about the use of force. And I think it's significant now that EndSARS is trending on social media, given the attack on an unarmed young man, and the fact that since 2017, we've had headlines of SARS being disbanded almost every year. It's, as we're calling it, it's like a party pack that a new IGP does every year, disband SARS, and then SARS goes on to kill people. So the use of force continues to affect how citizens engage the state. We're talking about Nigeria at 60. At EIE, we're looking at Nigeria at 100. And the critical question is, for Nigeria to celebrate its centenary in 40 years, what must we begin to do now? What questions do we need to answer? In the last 1 week, both the Vice President and the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, one of the largest denominations in the country, talked about restructuring Nigeria and how a United States of Nigeria, i.e., as we call it, a functional federalism of states sort of running their own thing in their own way, is the only way that we can have this conversation. We cannot force the unity of a nation. We cannot enforce it by force, if I want to use that word. It must be something that we voluntarily want to be a part of, and under what terms. So for Mr. President to still, despite all that has happened and is happening, to still be insisting on that as a modus operandi of engaging his citizens that he does not engage, by the way, is really, I think for me, speaks to where Nigeria is at 60. So as citizens, for the Nigeria that we want as 100, we must determine what it is that we want and the price that we're willing to pay for it.
So even as we celebrate 60 years of independence, we must look ahead to the future. Earlier on, we had that update on the condition of President Donald Trump of the United States and his wife Melania, who both tested positive for coronavirus. But what is significant about this is that it introduces some kind of uncertainty into the U.S. election campaign, and officials in the United States are scrambling to discover who else in the president's space may be infected. We listened earlier to Sean Conley, the White House physician, and the team at the Walter Reed Medical Center who are attending to President Donald Trump. But it's not only President Trump who has come down with COVID-19 as a world leader. We have had Jair Bolsonaro, of Brazil. We have had
Boris Johnson.
the Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez. We've also had Prime Minister Boris Johnson of the United Kingdom, also the president of Armenia, Nicole Pashinyan, and also Alejandro Giamatti, the president of Guatemala. But of course, you know, all these presidents, they survived it. And we are hoping that President Trump would also survive. But what is special in this case is that President Trump is 74. He has, you know, pre-existing conditions. And then this is just election season. Prof, how do you view this from the sociology of it, the politics of it, and the economics of it?
When you compare the situation of Donald Trump with all the other presidents you have mentioned, one fundamental difference is that Donald Trump himself does not believe in COVID-19 as an issue, not to take it as a big deal.
Brazilian president.
All others, they did.
Brazilian president didn't.
No, I'm coming. I'm aware of that. All other presidents, they decided to quickly take, you know, the matter seriously. Their cases were on daily basis reported to the general public, and sincerely too. Donald Trump's case is different. He's towing the path of President Eisenhower. That was 1955.
1955.
Yeah. Now,
when he had a heart attack.
Precisely. In preparation of the following year's election, they were gambling with that. Let me simply say that, look, I will not be against God's will on him. Let him recover. But the beauty of it all, and I submit, is that I can begin to appreciate that a president of a shithole country survives. Now, a president of a non-shithole, country, at least we expect that he should survive. Let God be and have mercy on him, so that at least he will now know quite well that there is the need to provide leadership by example. It was Confucius who told us that, look, learning without thought is perilous.
Well,
thought without learning.
Let me quickly from you before we go.
No, I just think it's interesting that a lot of people thought it was that it's probably a conspiracy, that it's not really true. I initially had that thought when he was in the White House, but now that it's at Walter Reed, that it might be a bit harder to keep this as a hoax. But it's significant that people think a president of the United States of America, the leading democracy, can lie about his health status.
Well, Chike, you have the last word here in less than 30 seconds. Do you think that this is a conspiracy? Chike? Chike, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Quickly.
And quickly, Yemi has just said my thoughts that it's very, very unfortunate that even when the president was said to have gotten this virus, nobody believed him. And because he was the one that said nobody should wear a mask and all of that. But from what we just saw now, what the doctors are saying is that he's well on the way to recovery. And of course, we can only wish him well and hope everything is okay with him and with the United States of America.
Well, you cannot be more correct, Chike OGEAH. You've been watching Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now. And thank you very much for watching. See you next Sunday.